there has to be clarity as to what is meant by cyber within the organisation. One of the stumbling blocks I see in multiple clients is there isn't a clear view of what does it mean. And if you don't understand what is meant by the term, how do you expect boards and organisations to have a view as to what should they be doing, what's their risk appetite, if they don't have clarity? The second piece is then around what's the key data, the crown jewels they're worried about, and that may vary across a large organisation. So again, in financial services, you said different cultures. There are different businesses, from the investment banking part, the retail banking, insurance and asset management. And so each of those different parts of a financial services organisation has different crown jewels that they should be worried about, potentially different threats from a cyber landscape or people internally that they then have to think through how do they protect their data.
One of the biggest challenges is understanding the organisation themselves as to what the main service and product is. So if I were to give an example, is in the automotive sector we have global supply chains, and automotive is a very complex product, so the car that we see on the road. But the difficulty is it's essentially a piece of system integration, so they would buy different elements from different legal jurisdictions and so on, and assemble them together to add value, as it were. But the challenge is that not only do they not understand some parts of those black boxes and ECUs that they buy, just to give an example, but they're not even allowed to, because that's the IP that companies in Germany or in China would want to keep. So the complex nature of that product, what that involves in terms of whether it's software and hardware, and exactly as Steve said, it's how you define cyber, as it were, is a huge part of it. And once we've addressed some of that, I think only then the CROs could be able to be in a position to understand the nature of risk, and then get down to different attributes, and so on. So that's the first challenge as I see, and it's quite a challenge because every sector, as I say, it's set up very differently. I find working with different sectors and looking at innovation, how do we evolve into new products and services in different companies, I find some companies do that horizontal innovation piece very well, where they would take a lesson learned from one area and they would say, well, actually, we did it very well in this aspect, and could we then deal with risks in cyberspace or something similar in a similar way. And I think that's very important to draw parallels to, because there are things that we do very well. Going back to the automotive example, to give them credit, they do assemble fantastic cars and offer fantastic value and economic growth. And I think focusing on growth is important, because we need to give an incentive to the board to say, look, this is in our interest to address this risk, and if you're on top of this, we're able to handle any disruptions, attacks, whatnot effectively. So I think there's no doubt, those horizontal vertical communication sort of structures within companies allow for employees to come up with innovative ideas and say, well, actually some of the problems could be addressed with something remarkably trivial at times. Just practices around employees, it's that corporate culture around various things could help. So we talk about cyber hygiene. Sometimes it's simply a matter of avoiding a certain type of technology, and you're saying you cut down the risk significantly.
And partly we've seen that from the regulators. Some of the activities of the regulators, whether it's the PRA and the FCA here in the UK and elsewhere, the challenges they're making of the board around cyber and their view of the cyber risk is because they do not believe the board is fully informed, understands the topic, and has got the right reporting mechanisms up to them to make some of the judgment calls. I think the other aspect I've seen change over the last few years is there is now a recognition it's not if you're going to lose data or get hacked, it's actually when. And that's quite a shift in the thinking. So boards and the regulators expect organisations to lose data. They expect organisations, unfortunately, to be hacked. It's about how well they respond, how quickly do they identify the attack, and how do they resolve it. And that is a mindset shift. And as we talked about innovation and change, it's not as if you can't do change. You have to. We have to continue to adapt. but to do it in a fully informed way, clearly understanding what the risks are, whether that's a cyber risk, another technology risk, and then putting the right controls in place.